the demons go when they do what they do. And now I feel like taking off, find a place with a view. The pain is never gonna stop if it's controlling you. I know that time can heal it all, I just gotta get through. I just gotta get through, I just gotta get through. Cause I feel like taking off, find a place with a view. The pain is never gonna stop if it's controlling you. I know that time can heal it all, I just gotta get through. Sometimes I feel like all is lost, but I know it's not true. I wanna put up all my walls cause I'm not in the mood, but then I cut myself off from the rest of the room. I know that time can heal it all if you're patient and soon. It can all be worth it, all the searching. Pain is never really permanent, but damn it hurts, man. I could feel all of the turbulence and it's concerning. I've been searching.
Hey guys, what is up? Welcome to the Philadelphia Eagles vs. Arizona Arizona Cardinals talk. And I'm here with my guy Joe from the Cardinal Rule. How you doing, man? How you doing?
I'm good, man. Dealing with little allergies, but there's a lot worse things I guess I could be dealing with. So I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. I mean, I was told by certain people to come reach out to you to get you on here. So Grandizer, that was one of them.
Oh, Grandizer's great. He's such a great supporter of content creators, man. So yeah. Grandizer's the best.
Yeah, he is. So he told me about you and some other people. So I was like, oh, I gotta have this guy on and stuff. And I've been following you for a little bit now. So
thanks. Well, I'm humbled and honored. So definitely appreciate you reaching out.
Yeah, it's great. And we got Mark Jackson in here. Looks like he's a Cardinals fan. So
Mark's a great supporter of my channel, and he writes for. I've got a website that I launched with a friend of mine named Kyler Bird called AZ Sports Underground, and Mark does some great writing for us covering the Diamondbacks and the Coyotes. Mark's a good dude, so I appreciate Mark jumping in here to help support and represent the Cardinals here with us.
Hey, Mark, good to meet you, man. Good to meet you, and hopefully I get to see you again in one of my streams in the future. What is up, Philly Sports Talk? What is up, man? That's my guy, Robert. He's killing it right now. Good for you, man. Good for you. So I was actually going to have you start off, introduce yourself and where can they find you on social media?
Yeah, my name's Joe Camo. You can find me. My hub is kind of the Cardinal Rule YouTube channel. So I believe the link is down below in the description. Mitch has kindly put it there. So that's the primary place to check out my content. I do live streams and shorter form videos and do various things talking about the Arizona Cardinals. You can also find me at Twitter on JoKomo13, JOKOMO. It's kind of a funky spelling of my name. I believe that's also down in the description. I appreciate you putting that, Mitch. And I'm an Arizona Cardinals fan. I've been one since they moved to Arizona. I'm old enough to have been one since then. I cover the team that I love. So.
Yeah. Oh, there's my guy, Cool Cat. We have a podcast together called Cool Cat Mitch. We watch each game together. So on Sunday, we're going to be watching the Eagles versus the Cardinals. That's going to be fun. I can't wait. And so how did you become a Cardinals fan, and who's your favorite player of all time?
So, I was born in Arizona, so I'm originally from there. I've lived in other places. As a kid, I spent some of my childhood in California, but moved back to Arizona, lived there till I was in my 30s when I went to grad school. I do live in Georgia now. My career has brought me here, I was 14 when the Cardinals moved to Arizona in 1988. And I kind of started getting into sports then and followed them, became a diehard fan, and have, been a huge fan ever since.
There you go. And favorite player all time?
Oh, yeah. It's got to be Larry Fitzgerald, right? Come on. There's other players that I really like a lot. Guys like Adrian Wilson, Marcus Golden, who's with the team now. But Fitz is the all-time great for the Arizona Cardinals.
Carson Palmer?
I like Carson. He was a really good quarterback for us. One of the better quarterbacks that we've gotten to watch as Cardinals fans. So definitely love Carson Palmer. Kurt Warner. You got to add him to that list.
Right. Right.
So absolutely, but Larry Fitzgerald is the GOAT if you're a Cardinals fan.
Yeah. The whole story with Kurt Warner, undrafted, bagging everything to a Super Bowl champion. It's just that's the story in itself. You can't
Yeah.
write these things. You can't write it.
No, it's definitely kind of like well, they made a movie about it, but it's like that kind of story, right? It's an
Yeah.
amazing underdog kind of story, and then but it's great. He the story continues. He won the Super Bowl, seemed like he was like an elite quarterback, but then at some point the Rams kind of dumped him, and he went to New York, and then they drafted I think Eli Manning, and kind of he was on the outs there, and he came to Arizona and took us to a Super Bowl. Didn't win it, obviously. That was disappointing, but I mean, he solidified, his legacy is just this all-time great to, take the Arizona Cardinals, which is, as a fan, I know they've struggled for a long time, and he took them to the Super Bowl and, what was a really great game that didn't end the way I wanted it to. But, yeah.
Kurt Warner's son plays for my Temple Owls now.
Nice.
That is really cool. I honestly did not know that. I'm not a Temple fan. I'm more of a Michigan fan.
Okay.
Yeah. You got a favorite college team or?
There's a story about that. No, not really. In the West Coast, we don't do, there's Arizona State University, but college isn't as big, so I'm more of a pro fan. But I told myself when I was like applying to grad programs for grad school, I was like, okay, I don't have a college team, but this is going to be my chance. Wherever I go to grad school, that's going to be my college team. And I ended up at the University of North Texas, and my first year there, I Googled their football team, and it came up on ESPN's bottom 10. It was a bottom 10 power rankings of the 10 worst teams in college football, and they were number 1. So that was my sign from the universe that I am not meant to be a college football fan, that the place I'm like, this is where I'm going to hitch my wagon to this team. And lo and behold, it's the worst team in the country. Right.
Oh my God.
So, right. So the universe, sometimes the universe sends you a message and you just have to listen. And I listened. So, so I'm not really a college fan. There's teams I don't like. I'm not a fan of Bama because I don't like kind of juggernauts like that. But not really a college person in terms of football. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just for me, it's Michigan, just straight up.
Okay.
It's Michigan because of Denard Robinson. I don't know if you remember him from the Jacksonville days and stuff like that.
Was he a linebacker or
he was actually a quarterback?
No, then I'm not. Then I have no idea who it is. Okay.
Because he was a quarterback, they made him into a running back in the NFL and that whole nine. So it's like, So
that sounds vaguely familiar, actually. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So, how do you feel about your Cardinals going up against the Eagles in this matchup? How do you feel about it?
I mean, listen, the Eagles are favored, and they should be. They're 4-0, right? They're a really good team. Oh, Mark, you are a Bama Roll Tide person. Oh man, Mark, we got to talk, buddy. No, Mark's a great dude, but listen, the Eagles are a really good team. They're 4-0, the last remaining undefeated team. They rate very high in Football Outsiders DVOA, which is a metric I think is a good, kind of a nice metric in terms of, determining teams that are really good or, and they rank high in that. They've got a solid roster. So going into this is like this, the Cardinals, if they can pull off a win here against the Eagles, I think it's going to change the narrative for the Cardinals. The Cardinals have struggled coming out of the gate. They're a team with talent. You've got a quarterback in Kyler Murray that can carry a team and win games, right? And you've got some really nice players on both sides of the ball for the Cardinals, but they've come out slow in all their games. I had done the math, and I was talking about this last night, and the Cardinals in the first half of games have scored 16 points this year, and in second halves of games they've scored 65. Right. So they turn on the offense in the second half, and the defense, it's the similar story. In the first half of games, they've given up 66 points. In the second half of games, 34. So the Cardinals are a talented team with playmakers, but they're starting slow all year. So the Eagles are favored. And if objectively speaking, I would have to pick the Eagles as the team most likely to win, but the Cardinals are absolutely capable of coming out here and winning. The question is, are the Cardinals at a turning point, or are they really still going to continue being a team that kind of comes out sluggish? Because they had a nice game against Carolina. They started, they only put up 10 points in the first half, so it was still a little slow, but they took a lead. So how I feel going into it. I feel like I feel like we have a chance. I feel like our team can absolutely win this game. And if they do, it's going to be a huge win that people say, okay, the Cardinals, they are a good team. But if they lose, at least as long as they're competitive, I can live with that, right? Because the Eagles are a very good team.
Yeah. Now, for me, we don't score a lot in the second half. I think the first time was last week, and we just scored in the fourth quarter, and all the Eagles fans were hyped. Like, yay, we scored in the fourth quarter. So if we can score in all 4 quarters, I'm fine with it, because last year we started off slow and came back hot. Now, this year we start off hot, we're finishing slow. So for me, it's like
you're like the opposite of what the Cardinals are right now, though, right? You're good in the first half, so that's interesting to see how that's going to play out, right?
Yeah, but it's any given Sunday. I've been saying that for like years, but who knows? But for me, I'm just looking forward to my Birds playing, and I'm one of those guys where it's realistic to me. That's like the number one thing. Like you have Eagles fans out here saying like we're gonna go 16-1. Jalen Hurts the best quarterback in the whole league, and nah. That's not me. That's not me. I take realistic number one. Like for me, that's how I was raised. That's a realistic Eagles fan, and that's how it just go. So for me, it's just like, yeah.
Well,
so
when you say any given Sunday, that's the key, right? Because like, listen, the better team is going to win 7 out of 10 times, right? The better team is going to win most of the time. But 3 out of 10 times, the team that is the underdog is going to win, right? And sometimes even really bad teams, I'm not saying the Cardinals are a really bad team, but like sometimes really bad teams beat good teams. It's like anyone who says there's no way they're going to beat us is like, you haven't watched enough football, right? Like if you think there's no way that team X is going to beat your team, you haven't watched enough football, right? Now, objectively speaking, I try to be a realistic fan too. I have to look at it and say the Eagles are favored, right? And they are more probable to win this game, right? There's a higher probability the Eagles win, but the Cardinals absolutely have a chance, right?
Yeah. Anyone has a chance, and actually we're going to go into this now with Jalen Hurts versus their defense. Like, Jalen Hurts has been hot. He has been hot the first 3 games, and then last game, he did not do well. Granted, the weather was bad and everything, so can Jalen Hurts bounce back? So how do you feel about your defense going up against Jalen Hurts?
So this is interesting because let's start with the pass rush, right? The Cardinals pass rush has struggled to get sacks. They've got, I think, 4 sacks on the season, 3 of those coming from interior pass rush, J.J. Watt and Zach Allen. But they've been really good in terms of the pass rush win rates. So what's happening is our pass rushers are beating their guys, getting pressure, but the quarterbacks are getting the ball out quick, or they're getting away. So we're getting pressure, but not the sacks. Well, Hurts is one of those guys like Kyler Murray that if you get pressure on him, he can run and he can do something with his legs if the passing breaks down, right? So we, starting point is, can our pass rush put some pressure on them? I do think they can, in that interior pass rush with J.J. Watt and Zach Allen. That's a thing that interior pass rush is so important. It gets in the quarterback's face, and with a guy like Hurts, it makes him have to roll out to the sidelines to run instead of being able to run up the middle for some quick yardage if the outside pass rush. So, I think our pass rush can put some pressure on him. I know you've got I think your left side of your offensive line is a little banged up. Yeah. So maybe some questions there. In terms of our cornerbacks, you all have some really great wide receivers. Our cornerbacks are kind of unheralded, but they've actually done a pretty decent job. Like in terms like Byron Murphy Jr. held, Devontae Adams to 2 receptions for 12 yards and 1 touchdown on a goal line play. So our cornerbacks, for as much as they may not be household names, have done a pretty decent job. The bigger weakness for our defense has been in the middle of the field with our linebackers in coverage. And that's where our team's gotten beat a lot, in the middle there. And our safeties, we have a couple really good safeties, Budda Baker and Jalen Thompson, but they do a good job. But those linebackers, kind of in that middle field, is where it's dangerous. So someone like Dallas Goedert, right, is going to potentially be a key, for Philly there in the middle. So what do I think? I think we can do a good job against Jalen Hurts. I think our Vance Joseph, our defensive coordinator, has actually done a pretty good job. I think even though the numbers don't maybe show up because that Kansas City blowout kind of, makes numbers look a little worse than they are for the Cardinals. I think they can do a good job against them. Last time we played against them, we did a pretty good, we came out with a win. But Hurts has had a great season, so he's definitely played very well this year. So that's definitely a tough matchup. But I think if Hurts is going to hurt us, you see what I did there? Anyway, it's probably going to be in the middle of the field, I would think.
Yeah.
Against those linebackers.
Yeah. So for me, what scares me the most is obviously J.J. Watt. And with our offensive line kind of banged up, Mailata, that's what scares me the most. He's going to have to run outside the pocket. Like for me, I don't like him running too much because that's the risk of injury. Like last time he ran for 17, that's way too much. Mm-hmm. First time was 17, 12, then 7. Mm-hmm. So for me, the less is the better because his arm, I want to see how his arm does. And boy, he proved me wrong so far. I'm not the biggest Hurts fan. People in the chat can know, people in the Eagles community can tell you, I'm not the biggest Hurts fan. I'm not the biggest supporter or the biggest hater. So I'm like right there in the middle. So for me, it's just like he's going to have to run a lot and he's got to hit that. He's got it, like you said, in the middle. That's my number one thing. It's to hit Goddard, then other wide receivers will get open. We'll be talking about that later. Yeah. And now it goes to Kyler Murray against the Eagles defense. Now that is going to be very tough because the Eagles defense is like, I don't know, the last time we had 5 sacks or 5 turnovers, 10 sacks the game before. It's like stuff like that. So how do you feel about Kyler Murray against our defense?
So our offensive line is a little banged up. So the pass rush was a concern, right? So we don't know. There's at least 3 of our offensive linemen. We're not sure if they're going to play this week, because they're getting rest. I suspect a couple of them will play, but maybe one of them will be out. Rodney Hudson, to me, seems like he could be out. Justin Pugh's another possibility. So that could be a problem. You have some really good pass rushers. And, on the book for defenses on what to do with Kyler Murray is to let your outside pass rushers kind of put pressure on him, but contain him and keep him in the pocket and then let the pocket collapse on him. So, the pass rushers need to not be on the outside. Kind of the idea is don't be too aggressive and getting, but keep that pocket contained and keep him in there and then, take him down, right? And don't let him run. And the Eagles have the personnel to pull that off, right? So and the blueprints out there that's a way to limit him. And if that happens, then what the Cardinals need is for their offensive line to do a good enough job with that pocket and with their play calling to give Kyler time to get the ball out. Now, what I understand is your slot corner, Avonte Maddox, is injured. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So your backup at slot corner, is a guy. Now I know Gardner Johnson, I believe his name is going to play maybe some in the slot. He's more of a safety, but they may move him into the slot some. But then you've also got you've got Josiah Scott.
Yeah, we got Josiah Scott there,
and he has a PFF grade of 31.8 right now. So it's not great. Unlimited snaps. So. In terms of against the Cardinals or the Eagles defense, some of the Cardinals' really best players are in the slot in the middle of the field. You've got obviously Zach Ertz, who you're very familiar with, who can attack the middle of the field there. So that's going to be a weapon. Trey McBride, our second round tight end, who they haven't used a lot, but still kind of a guy in the middle there. And then, Rondale Moore, he's been banged up this year, but he's a former second round pick who's a slot receiver, and a guy who's kind of a practice squad guy who's bounced around, who's having a nice year for the Cardinals in Greg Dortch, who's our second leading receiver. Just a really scrappy, talented slot receiver. So I think, if I'm looking at how the Cardinals could beat the Eagles in terms of game plan and looking at weaknesses and strengths, get quick passes out to the slot. Yeah. So that we're picking on Josiah Scott, right? Your backup slot cornerback, hitting Zach Ertz in the middle of the field there, and those quick plays, keep that pass rush from getting to Kyler, right? Getting the ball out quickly. So if they can pull that off and maybe get something going in the run game, the Cardinals absolutely, can put up some points if they can get that going. But the Cardinals have to stop shooting themselves in the foot with penalties and things like that, because what ends up happening with the Cardinals, they get a drive going, and then they have a costly penalty on first down. And you got first or second down, you got a first and long or second and long, and before you know it, they're in third and long, and that just kind of kills drives. So
yeah. So for me, I think we gotta have a QB spy. I feel like maybe like a TJ Edwards or one of those guys, because Kyler Murray is like Jalen Hurts. He can take off running and he can throw it on a dime. So for me, it's like we need a QB spy on that. And then, stack the box. It's like get 5, get 7, or 3 and 4, 4 and 3, however you want to do it. We just got to put Russ on a quarterback, because look what we did with Hassan Reddick last week. He had 2 forced fumbles and 2 fumble recoveries. I mean, before with Jonathan Gannon, he had him in coverage. Like, he had that guy in coverage, and last year he was like having like 10 sacks. He can have those sacks. So thank God Jonathan Gannon made that adjustment. So I know we're going to talk about Hassan Reddick later, because he did play for the Cardinals. So it's like, yeah, Kyler Murray, this defense. It's
the tough part is if you put a spy on him, that's one less guy in coverage.
That is true, though.
So,
that is true. I mean, hell, Jordan Davis. I mean, maybe he's a little bit slow, I've been hearing, but who knows? He has the Eagles 34-24 over the Cardinals. We'll be talking about that at the end, predictions and all that good stuff. So, yeah, I mean, it's no matter what way you take it. I mean, if you want a QB spy, if you want coverage, but for me personally, we need an eye on Kyler Murray at all times. Yeah. So how does it feel about this whole D-Hop situation? Because I know that it's just like, it's not good. I mean, he's not that good when D-Hop was there, he was great. When he's not, yeah.
I mean, the offense struggles, right? I mean, the Cardinals offense last season in the first half was one of the best offenses in the NFL, and Kyler Murray was a leading MVP candidate for the first 7 or 8 weeks. And then people started getting banged up, and D-Hop got banged up, and the offense, kind of stalled out. And you've seen, this year too, they've come out slow. But Kyler's also, I mean, he's shown, albeit in stretches, that he can get the ball moving even without DeAndre Hopkins. Hollywood Brown, there's a connection there that he's building that he didn't have. We didn't have that last year, right? Yeah. So Hollywood Brown has had a nice season so far. He's on a pace, Hollywood Brown, for like 140 receptions and 1,400 yards or something like that. It's like, now I don't think he's going to keep quite that pace, especially when Hopkins gets back. But yeah, missing Hopkins is huge. I mean, if we had Hopkins, this team, I think could be 3-1 right now instead of 2-2. I think that Kansas City came out hot. I don't know that they were going to have a chance in that game, but I think that Rams game with Hopkins might have been a very different game, So, it's a better team with Hopkins than it is without him, no doubt. But it is nice to see Murray starting to kind of, I mean, he's already got a rapport with Hollywood Brown because they played together in Oklahoma, but it's nice to start to see him become, a big part of the offense. So, but yeah, I mean, missing him, we're not getting back till week 7 against New Orleans, and Cardinals fans are just kind of counting the days, just really can't wait to have him back and see if this, because I'll tell you, for as much as this season has kind of started out a little slow, when we've seen what Hollywood Brown has done, Cardinals fans are getting really excited about the idea of Hollywood Brown and DeAndre Hopkins as a receiving tandem. I mean, you all have a really great receiving pair, now in Philly, and you know what that's like to have 2 really good receivers. Well, I would put DeAndre Hopkins and Hollywood Brown up against any receiving tandem in the NFL with how Hollywood Brown has looked so far this year. Very, very good. And what we know DeAndre Hopkins is. So yeah, it's a different world without Hopkins, so for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I have Hollywood Brown in fantasy, and I was just like, man, I was actually blown. I was blown away. I thought he would be a solid 2, but he's been performing really well as a number 1. Now you have the capability to have 2 number 1s as 1 and 2, like the Eagles. I mean, that's just insane. And that college connection, Kyler Murray and Marquise Brown. So that college connection really means everything for those guys. It's just insane. So, are Cards fans upset about how well Kirk is playing since he is gone?
That's a good question. I don't think they're upset about how well he is playing. I mean, listen, Cardinals fans, we all saw Kirk got paid a lot.
Yeah.
A lot. And Cardinals fans knew that the Cardinals just were not going to match that. If Cardinals fans are upset about anything, they are upset that our coaching staff didn't use him as well as Jacksonville is. He's thrived when he's played slot receiver. The Cardinals played him a lot more outside, and he was good for us. But last year, when he was playing in the slot and we had DeAndre Hopkins and AJ Green, everyone was healthy. Kirk was tearing it up in the slot. So no, we're not. I mean, listen, Kirk is from Arizona. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. He's from Scottsdale. So Cardinals fans don't hold any hard feelings against Kirk. In fact, like most of us, like, hey, good for you. Get your money. We appreciate you. We wish, we know we couldn't have matched that money. It's not, it just doesn't make sense to spend that kind of money on our third receiver here. We're happy for you. We wish that we could have got that out of you while you were here. And that our Cardinals fans are kind of down on our coaching staff, Cliff Kingsbury, and our general manager. So if Cardinals fans are mad at anyone about that, they're upset about Cliff Kingsbury not getting that kind of performance out of Kirk.
Yeah. So my guy Philly halftime has the Eagles winning 42-34. To me, that's a little high. I'm not going to give my prediction until very end. Mm-hmm. So to me, that's a little high. I have the Eagles 27-21, but of course you want the Cardinals to win. That's understandable. That's your team. I get you. And salute. How you doing, Thomas? So yeah, that's a little high on my liking.
I mean, the Cardinals defense has played much better lately. The Eagles have a good defense. So that would be a lot. I mean, that would be both defenses kind of really playing below what they're capable of. Mm-hmm. But you never know, right?
That is true. That is true. Like any given Sunday. Now we got to talk about the battle of the running backs, Miles Sanders and James Conner. I know has James Conner been like kind of down this year compared to last year? Because he kind of scares me a little bit.
He's been banged up. So he hasn't played as well. He's the guy they've paid, but the thing you have to look at with the Cardinals is they've built a running back room that's kind of this collection of guys who can get it done, because we've run fairly well. Like the team's had over 100 yards rushing in multiple games, and the running backs have been pretty effective. They haven't run as much as we would like, but when they've run pretty effective. We have James Conner, Eno Benjamin, and Darrell Williams, and they rotate those guys in. So yeah, Conner has not been performed at the level he did last year, and he was really, really good last year. Part of that's he's banged up. Part of it is they've got a rotation of guys. Yeah. Miles Sanders, though, obviously having a really good year. Yeah. I've got him on one of my fantasy teams too. So.
Yeah, I mean, people tell you in the chat I'm not that big on Miles Sanders either. I wasn't as big for years because he was a east and west guy. He was not like a north, which where we needed the most. We needed some guy to go north, and that's what he's doing. And hell, he has 3 more touchdowns than he did last year.
Oh wow! Yeah.
So he has 3 now, 0 last year. So it's just So from my guy Robert here. Also, doesn't the Cardinals have a weak run defense?
So here's the deal with that. Last year, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Their run defense struggled last year. Part of that was their interior defensive line wasn't great. Their linebackers struggled. This year, it's early, but they're much better. In fact, if you look at, I have it right now, looking at ESPN's, they're allowing 87 rushing yards per game, which is the 5th best in the NFL. Again, it's only through 4 games. Some of that, was games where there was a lot of passing going on. But, when you look at the run defense there were 2 things Cardinals fans looked at the problems. One is, again, the interior defensive linemen, the defensive tackles last year couldn't stop the run. And at our middle linebackers, Jordan Hicks is a nice veteran, but he just wasn't great against the run. Well, Jordan Hicks has gone to Minnesota. He's having a nice year there.
Yep.
But our second-year linebacker, Zaven Collins, is taking his place. And Zaven, he's young, he's raw, but he's much more aggressive against the run. He's shooting the gaps. He's getting in there. He's doing a better job. Rashard Lawrence, who's going to be out this game, but he's been a good run defender for us. JJ Watt is playing. Zach Allen he is having a heck of a season. He's a guy who's in he's in our fourth year with us, maybe third or fourth year. Guy we drafted in the third round who's having a career year. So I don't know if it's game script or if they're really that much better, but they have thus far been much better against the run than they were last year. Now, again, we'll have to see over the course of a season how that plays out.
Yeah. Eno for special teams, he kicks and tackles.
Yeah, our kicker was injured and banged up, and towards the end of the game, Eno Benjamin, our running back, he had to do the last kickoff of the game. He did the kickoff and ran down and made the tackle too. Yeah.
Wait, what?
Yeah, and it wasn't one of those tackles where the guy had a long run. You know what I'm saying? If the kicker's tackling the kick returner, then usually it means you got a problem. And but no, he kicked off and you ran down and he got the tackle. So that was
wow. Fun. I gotta look that up on YouTube. Jeez, I gotta look that up. But our kicker actually is injured too. He's not even playing, Jake Elliott, and we picked up Cameron Dicker.
We've got a guy who we signed this week who's going to be our kicker too. So it's a battle of the backup kickers. So
I know, it's just like, what are the odds? Like that.
Go figure, right?
Yeah. So my friend Further AM wants to know, Zach Ertz must be used more efficiently. I want to see a great Ertz game against the Eagles.
Yeah, he's been our third leading receiver, I think, this year, which isn't, with all the receivers that have been injured and banged up for the Cardinals, you'd like to see him maybe a little higher on that. So, he has been used by the Cardinals in the offense. There's some games where we would have liked to see him. So I think Cardinals fans would generally like to see a little more of Zach Ertz too. He's a nice weapon. You all know exactly how good he is. He's been part of the game. He's been good, but it would be nice to see more of him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, I just want to go back to the run because we were talking about Miles Sanders. We'll talk about Zach Ertz later, but Miles Sanders, you got to keep on giving him the rock. Last week, he had a career day, 134 yards and 2 touchdowns. I believe it was 27 carries. Correct me if I'm wrong, chat, but got to keep doing that. You got to keep on feeding the rock. I mean, we got a great running back by committee. Miles Sanders, Kenneth Gainwell, Trey Sermon now, who could be like our fullback. I mean, hey, we got a good running game by committee, so we just got to keep on feeding the rock. And, of course, we got Jalen Hurts there as part of the running game. So, how do you like the whole run game, like, compared to going to your defense?
The Eagles run game versus the Cardinals defense?
Yeah.
I mean, you have a deep running game like you talked about, all those running backs in there, with the Eagles, and then you have the quarterback that adds to that. So, I think our defense has done a reasonably good job against the run this year, like I said. So I'm not now watch the universe prove me wrong and you guys just run for like 300 yards or something, but I'm not worried about a huge running day. In fact, I think game script will determine that more than anything else. If you got, if it's a close game, I think we're going to, or we're going back and forth. I don't think we're going to see as much running. I don't know. So far, like I said, they've done a decent job. Like Christian McCaffrey was all Carolina had to work with last week, and the Cardinals kind of contained him pretty well. He had a receiving touchdown at the end in garbage time, but they did a nice job of. No one has really just totally torched us in the running game. So, obviously, like we say, any given Sunday, someone can go off, but I'm not. That doesn't the running game doesn't worry me quite as much as maybe just in general the fact that the Eagles are a very well balanced team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, since you are a Cardinals fan, do you miss Bruce Arians?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, he was this coach that brought this really great era of Cardinals football. He was fun, so a little bit, but I mean, he's retired now, so. the whole no risk it, no biscuit was kind of fun. He was like that fun uncle who you have a beer with, right? That was kind of his persona. So I do kind of miss that a little bit. But I think, it's one of those things where you're just glad you had that time, right?
Yeah, of course. So the Eagles wide receivers against the Cardinals cornerbacks, like, what are you gonna do? I mean, just pick your poison, right?
Right. I mean, and I talked about this a little bit earlier. Like on paper, if you look at the Cardinals cornerbacks, they don't grade terribly well on PFF. In fact, Marco Wilson's grade, I think, is in the 30s or 40s. It looks bad. Byron Murphy Jr.'s been okay. He's graded like in the 60s. We've got Trayvon Mullen and, 7th round pick, Christian Matthew, that are just, you don't look at that cornerback group and say, oh, that's a great cornerback group. But if you look at it, receivers have not been torching us. Like you haven't had like these huge receiver games. You've had a tight end, Kelsey had a really good game, but like the cornerbacks have held their own. And I feel like part of that is Vance Joseph's defense. I think he does a good job working with cornerback or, making a defense that can get the job done even without great cornerbacks. And I think part of that is also our safeties, right? Budda Baker and Jalen Thompson, in my opinion, the best safety tandem in the NFL. I know I'm biased, but they're two outstanding safeties. And I think that helps the defense, the cornerbacks out a little bit because you have some really great safeties who do their job and help give you backup and coverage and double team. So, listen, obviously one of those, AJ Brown is such a stud, right? Devontae Smith's a really nice young receiver. Either one of those guys could have just a killer game. It happens. So I guess the fact that our cornerbacks held Devontae Adams so well and have played against other good receivers like, DJ Moore and other receivers and held their own. Even Cooper Kupp had a nice game, but he wasn't like torching our receivers. He had his best play was a running play. It was the slot guy, Swarnick or whatever his name is, who actually had a big game. But anyway, like, I don't know, thus far our cornerbacks have held their own. We'll see. Maybe this is the game where the other shoe drops and they get torched. But I'm not panicking about that.
Yeah. So for me, it's just like, we got to spread the ball around. The Eagles got to spread the ball around. Like the first week against Detroit, it was just AJ Brown. Devontae Smith had 4 targets, no catches. I believe Quez Watkins had 1 target, no catch. So, and then the next game, we targeted everybody. Everybody had less than 100 yards, which is incredible. I said that from the beginning. You got to spread the ball around. And then we have Goddard, Watkins. I mean, it's insane. So if we keep on doing that, like especially attack the middle, like you were saying with Goddard and Watkins and Pascal, just like the slot, I think we should be fine with that. It's just, again, it comes to Jalen Hurts. Can Jalen Hurts be consistent? That's my number one thing. Can he be consistent game in and game out? He's got to bounce back after last week. Last week was bad. Yeah, that's just me. So, and then we got the more fun one, in my opinion. The Eagles corners against your wide receivers, basically Hollywood Brown. So how do you feel going up against Darius Slay and James Bradbury?
I mean, those are some great cornerbacks, right? So that's going to be a tough matchup. So that's, like I talked about earlier, though, I think the slot is a more favorable matchup for the Cardinals, with Josiah Scott in there and Avonte Maddox out. So I would look for Rondale Moore and Greg Dortch to have, kind of bigger games. But at the same time, I mean, listen, Hollywood Brown has gone up, they've played against some good cornerbacks. JC Horn, in Carolina he's like one of the top 5 rated cornerbacks, I think, in the NFL, having a great year. And he was kind of on Hollywood Brown a lot. Hollywood Brown had a nice game. So I think the slot is where we're going to have probably more consistent success. But man, Hollywood Brown is so fast, and he has where Cardinals fans are just waiting for him to bust one open and get on the, behind the defense. And Kyler is really good throwing the deep ball. So, we got some weapons that I think can go against anyone. So, obviously you have some really great outside cornerbacks, so it's going to be a great matchup. But I think our offense can, if they are not coming out slow, if the offense is doing what they need to do, they have the players who can match up against your cornerbacks as good as they are.
Yeah. I mean, James Bradbury, he had a pick 6 the very first game, and then he has 2 picks already. Just that acquisition from the New York Giants out of all teams is just incredible. I can't remember the last time we had this great cornerback duo since, like, I don't know, Troy Vincent and Bobby Taylor or Lito Shepard and those guys. I mean, it's a breath of fresh air to have these guys. So, yep. And how do you wait? Where is it? Oh, and I just want to talk about the tight ends here real quick. Dallas Goedert and Zach Ertz, because Zach Ertz played for the Eagles, and Dallas Goedert was like, taking it back. He got drafted behind Zach Ertz and all that stuff. So, how do you feel about this tight end matchup going at it?
Well, I think it's a great matchup. Goddard is younger; he's in his prime of his career. Ertz is kind of in the backside of his career. So I think Goddard probably, like, head to head, I think Goddard is probably the guy actually you'd probably, if you had to take one for your team, he's probably the one who right now you would rather have. And I love, what Zach Ertz has brought to us. But he's probably, being in the prime of his career, he's probably the better player right now. But as we've talked about, both of these tight ends have advantageous matchups that they have a chance to take advantage of, right? Our middle linebackers have struggled in coverage this year. And so that's a place, where you all can where Goddard could take advantage of. But you all, are missing, your slot cornerback, and Ertz could take advantage. So, this is a game that kind of, fares up, or, kind of lines up pretty well for both of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, just playing against Zach Ertz, it feels so different. I mean, it's just so weird. I mean, I'm not used to playing against this guy at all. I just want him to have a good game. And, Eagles fans are going to be out there to show it, like, show their emotions and thank you. We got some of our guys bought our own jet. It's just like all filled with Eagles fans. It's crazy. So, can we ask Santa, does he think the Cardinals kind of got screwed with the Kyler Murray contract?
Well, Santa's not on the stream, but I've never heard that joke before. Come on, that's weak. I've heard that joke so many times, but I'll answer the question. Not in the least bit. I did a video that talked about quarterback contracts, and I even did some statistical or numeric breakdowns where I looked at how the quarterback contracts go up every year, and did some analysis. Like if you go to my channel, the Cardinal Rule, I published this, I think, on the beginning of March. So you'd have to go back into my but it was a video where I said, the thumbnail says something like he's going to get paid or something like that. And it's talking about Kyler Murray's contract. I did this video months before he got signed, and I predicted the total amount of his contract within $5 million. I think my prediction was 260 million, and he got, or 265, and he got 260.5. I was within 5 million. And I explained in that video why Kyler Murray, as much as people might think he's overpaid, that is not overpaid, because those contracts every year get bigger. Mm-hmm. And when you have a franchise quarterback, you have two choices. You either pay him somewhere around that going rate for that year, or you move on from him. They're lowballing your quarterback is not an option, because they are going to either go somewhere else and hold out or something. So I explained in that video, but no, they did not get screwed. Kyler's the guy you can win with. Kyler's a rare talent, and what they paid him is kind of the going rate. And in a couple years, when Joe Burrow is getting his contract and it's 65 million a year, 70 million, people are going to look at the Kyler Murray contract and say, wow, that's a bargain. But let's give a historical example. Last year, the Rams won with Matthew Stafford.
Correct.
And Matthew Stafford's contract was his salary for last year was $27 million. And everyone looked at that and thought, what a bargain, right? You have a quarterback who just won a Super Bowl for you on a $27 million contract this year when you got quarterbacks signing 40, 45, $50 million contract. What a break. Well, but here's the deal. When Stafford signed that contract 4 or 5 years ago, that deal was the equivalent of a $48 million contract. Like I did the math. So like those contracts, every year, those things go up, and you have two choices. You either sign them to a deal within about a $3 million range at the current salary, or you move on from them. You guys are going to face that with Jalen Hurts, and you're not going to be able to lowball him. You're not going to be able to say, oh, he's a second round pick, so he should take $10 million less. It won't work that way. His agent won't do that. Right.
Right.
So anyone who thinks like your choice was move on or extend Kyler. And if you look at how quarterback contracts work, that's how it works. So that's kind of the deal. And I encourage anyone who wants to look at that, check out that video. I show the numbers. I kind of go through the whole deal and explain it. Right. So
I'm going to have to check that out. It sounds interesting. I'm going to have to check that out.
And I see him saying the whole, and I'm going to say Next Shift is bringing up the whole gaming thing.
I was going to bring that up. Yeah.
That is I'll tell you what, that's a lazy media narrative. NFL players play golf. They watch movies. They play video games. Everyone has a hobby. He has a hobby. And I'll tell you, like people have come out and talked about this, like coaches from college, the dude watches film. That's a lazy media narrative. People have grabbed that because it's exciting or whatever, because it's a click-worthy narrative. But that's a weak, lazy media narrative. So I don't buy that for a second. He loves game more than playing. Come on, you don't get. And he had a great press conference where he came out and challenged the narrative. He's like, listen, you don't get, like, he's 5'10", and he's playing NFL quarterback, at a pretty high level. You can't do that at 5'10" if you don't love football and if you don't watch film. It's ridiculous. So
I mean, you can, this narrative right here is like in every sport. It's not just football, it's in every sport, especially with the guy named Ben Simmons from my Sixers and that whole spiel. I'm not going into that, but I'm just saying right there. Yeah. And apparently this Colts and Broncos game is bad.
That's Thursday night football, right? They just need to do away with Thursday night football. It's just
the fact that it's on Amazon Prime, no less.
Yeah. It's most of those teams have 4 days rest. Some people have proposed that if you're going to do Thursday night football, the teams playing should be coming off a bye. If you did that, I could maybe be okay with it because they've got more rest, but just you worry about the injury risk, right? With playing on 4 days rest, and it ends up being bad football, probably because they don't have as much time to game plan. That's probably because, it's pretty consistently bad football. So they either need to do away with Thursday night football or do something different, like having the teams that play, only play Thursday night games when you've just come off of a bye.
Yeah. I mean, and again, we could talk about this whole Tua thing coming from it Sunday to Thursday. We can talk about that, but that's like a whole nother thing. Mm-hmm. But that's just a coincidence.
Yeah.
Just some Thursday night football. So, yeah, we got to talk about this matchup right here. J.J. Watt versus the Eagles offensive line. I mean, the Eagles offensive line is banged up. By a lot of is out. J.J. Watt, is he coming off like a heart surgery or something?
Yeah, so they call it AFib. I'm not sure how you pronounce the whole thing, but it's an irregular heartbeat, and they had to do kind of a thing to shock it to put it back into rhythm. That's my understanding of it. So, it's a little bit of a scary thing. But, obviously they have doctors monitoring that. And, when you're an NFL player, you have the best medical, teams available, as long as you're listening to them, unlike the Tua thing. Right. But, so that's a little bit of a scary thing. He had a press conference where he talked about it, and he was kind of tearing up because, he's got a baby coming. I don't know if it's like his wife is pregnant, and, I always try to remind myself that these are real humans playing this game that we watch, right? And there's more important things than football. And this is a dude, in his 30s with a baby on the way who just, the heart is a scary thing. You don't want to mess around with it. Like a knee injury sucks, but knee injury is not life threatening, so, it seems thus far, everything we're hearing is it's okay. Whatever he needs to do to take care of that, obviously, I support that. Is not that he needs my approval, but I support that. But he played this last week, and we haven't heard anything that says he's not going to play this week. So, and listen, he's been really good for us. He's put pressure. He's got 2 sacks. And like I said before, that interior pass rush is so vital because like outside pass rushers, you can get sacks, you get strip sacks, and those are really good. But what you do on the inside is with that interior pass rush, even if you don't get the sack, if you pressure that quarterback, you're disrupting the play and the timing on the play. And that can lead to interceptions. Like that's last year, Byron Murphy Jr. had an interception against Trevor Lawrence because JJ Watt put pressure on him, right? So he's going to be a huge, if the Cardinals want to have a chance to win this game, him and Zach Allen on the interior are going to be really huge part of that. Oh, Grandizer just jumped in the chat. Want to do a shout out. We talked about you earlier, Grandizer. Appreciate you being here, Grandizer, the VP of the content creator space for NFL football teams.
Yes, of course. You just share. Here's another one. Yep. I mean, he told me about some Lions guy. I started following him and stuff like that. So, Grandizer.
He knows everyone.
Oh, my God. It's just amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So, yeah. It's going to be tough with J.J. Watt. I mean, the guy's a freaking acer. He's going to be a Hall of Famer. Mm-hmm. Or if he already is, people clarify he is, he isn't. That's a whole another debate. Yeah. But, that means Jalen Hurts is going to have to run for his life when it comes to J.J. Watt. It's just common sense there. How many sacks does J.J. Watt have on the season so far?
2.
Oh, it's only 2.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought he had
not
more.
a ton, but he's been getting good pressure. They've been playing him with limited snaps because he's had, I think it was a calf injury that he's nursing. So, he's been on a pitch count, but when he's been in there, he's been effective.
Yeah. I mean, with J.J. Watt, he's always going to be effective no matter what.
Yeah.
And his brother, don't even get me started on the other Watt. Oh, my God. Yeah. That's insane. T.J. Watt. Whew.
Well, that injury he had I know that's really rough, man. He's such a great player, though.
Yeah, all these Watts are good. It's just insane. So, at the end of the day, I feel like J.J. Watt is going to get a lot of pressure because we're weak on that one side. So, we're going to need some of our depth to step up. I mean, Andre Dillard's been clear for like 21 days of practice. We got to see how that goes. And from there, we got Driscoll and all this stuff. So, I'm not that worried when it comes to offensive line and our depth. So, how does it feel to play against Hassan Reddick?
Bittersweet. I mean, listen, I like with Hassan Reddick, I pull for the guy. The Cardinals drafted him, right? And he was a pass rusher in college. They tried to turn him into an inside linebacker, an off-ball linebacker because of his physical tools. And he struggled in that role a little bit. So then, Bruce Arians moves on. They have, they bring in Steve Wilkes for 1 year, then Healy, then they fire him. And then Cliff Kingsbury comes in, and in his second year, they move him back to outside linebacker. And then Chandler Jones gets injured, and then he gets playing time and gets like 12 and a half sacks or whatever he's had this last year.
Yeah.
And like, when I look at that, I feel like the Cardinals mismanaged the beginning of his career and cost him money because from a rookie year, he had been a pass rusher and had put up, double-digit sacks over a couple seasons or whatever. If he was coming out of his rookie deal with like 30 or 40 career sacks, if he had been playing as an outside linebacker, he would have made a lot more money last year, right? Instead, he signs a prove-it deal with Carolina, puts up more sacks, and then finally gets paid, going back to his hometown in Philly, right? So I don't begrudge him leaving. I wish him the best. I wish the Cardinals had not mismanaged his career. He is that one. He's probably the one free agent I wish we didn't let go, right? Because if we had kept him as our pass rusher and paid him, he'd be a really nice part of this defense, but they didn't. And I think a lot of Cardinals fans feel the same, that wish that we had kept him around.
Yeah, that was just one of the biggest offseason moves for us. That and Kaiser White alone, because last year our linebackers was just weak. It was just the weakest spot. And then we got those two guys. Then we got Nakobe Dean, who hasn't gotten a lot of snaps yet, but I'm not exactly worried about him. Oh, speaking of rookies, actually, I believe you were talking about like your rookies not getting enough snaps or something. Could you?
Yeah, they have. Yeah, our coaching staff just doesn't seem to play rookies a lot. Like Marco Wilson played a lot last year. That was the outlier. But like, Isaiah Simmons, when he was a rookie, he played some, but he was not a starter. And then last year he got full-time snaps. Zaven Collins was kind of a backup rotational linebacker, his rookie deal. And then finally this year he's playing full-time. Cardinals fans are frustrated about that. And this year you have Trey McBride, our second round. We traded our first round pick for Hollywood Brown. So, there's that. And he's playing really well. But Trey McBride, our second round pick, he was inactive for the first game, and he hasn't played much. This last game, he got 3 receptions, and those were his first NFL receptions. So our second round pick hasn't played a lot. Our third round picks are a couple pass rushers. One of them, Cameron Thomas out of San Diego State, has played a little bit, but 8 snaps a game kind of a thing. And our other third round pick pass rusher, Myjai Sanders out of Cincinnati, has been inactive every week. So the Cardinals fans are frustrated about it. You go deeper, you've got a running back that we've got, Keontae Ingram, who's been inactive every week. He's kind of deep on the depth chart. Guy that they've got a couple linebackers, Lacita Smith, who's been inactive or injured, Marquise Hayes, another rookie who's on the IR, and Christian Matthew, a cornerback who we took in the 7th round, who's been active some of the games but hasn't played much. So Cardinals fans just look at that and are just frustrated not seeing those rookies play. There's a lot of other teams that are playing their rookies. And Cardinals aren't. So fans want to see those players. And I think that's exacerbated by the fact that Cardinals fans are also very down on Steve Keim's draft history.
Right.
So they look at it as they look at it as, where either it's some combination of, they feel like either Steve Keim isn't doing a good job drafting, or the team isn't doing a good job playing and developing those picks, or both. So it just adds to the frustrations that many Cardinals fans have.
Mm-hmm. And apparently Grandizer's rooting for the Cardinals. Come on, man.
Well, Grandizer's a Dolphins fan, but he's going for the Cardinals because Grandizer's a smart dude. No, he lives in Arizona, though. So I think that might be
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
I forgot about that, but it's just like, come on, man.
Well, I appreciate that, Grandizer.
But anyways, it's that time of the day, predictions. So
he's got a Let's Go Eagles going, so he's giving you some love.
Oh, thank you. There we go. I'm happy now. So give me your prediction for this game.
I think the Bird Gang is going to win.
Okay.
Which Bird Gang is the question, right? Because Cardinals fans, we call ourselves the Bird Gang, and you all the content creators with last night, Bird Gang 31. So Bird Gang, we're both birds. My prediction, though, has been 28-24 Eagles. I'm picking them as the team that's most likely to win. Like I said, I absolutely could see the Cardinals winning. I think they have the ability to win. It would not shock me if they won. I hope they win. But objectively speaking, with as well as the Eagles have played and as much as the Cardinals have struggled, I'm gonna kind of predict a close game with the Eagles winning 28-24.
Yeah. Mine was actually 27-24 Eagles. I'm not
nice. So close, yeah.
27-24, yeah. And your player of the game for your team.
That's a good question. So if the Cardinals are going to win, I think the player of the game, man, I think it's going to be Kyler Murray. I think he's going to have a big game. I mean, there's other players you could look at, maybe like Rondale Moore having a good game in the slot, or Hollywood Brown having a big game. But I think, this team, lives and dies by Kyler right now.
Yeah. So for me, Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same exact thing. We live and die by our quarterback. But if he does not have a good game, we got our defense, who's been like top 2, I think, behind the Niners or something like that.
Mm.
It's like right there. So for me, it's like if Jalen Hurts doesn't do well, hopefully our defense does well. Because if that doesn't happen, we're basically done.
Yeah.
So I just want to say thank you for coming on. We just hit the hour mark. And let the people know where they can find you at.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Mitch. It's been a lot of fun. I appreciate you inviting me here. You can find me again at the Cardinal Rule on YouTube. If you go to YouTube and just search the Cardinal Rule, you should find my channel. The link should be in the description below as well. On social media, the main place to find me is on Twitter. It's at Jokomo13, Jokomo 13. Again, that should also be in the link below. So yeah, come follow me. And if you're, particularly if you want to find out more about the Cardinals, check out my videos. I do obviously do a ton of stuff on the Cardinals. And yeah, I appreciate you having me. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, sorry I was late. This notification showed up for me a little while ago. We'll watch it so you can get the watch hours. Appreciate you. Watch hours are annoying. I'm just going to tell you that right now.
That's the tough part. That took me longer to get to that milestone for monetization than the subscribers.
Yeah, me too. That's where I'm at.
Okay.
I'm like I need less than 200.
Okay.
So it's just like
you'll get there.
Take some away, and it's like
yeah.
I hate that, but thank you, Granizer, your support, everyone in the chat, and hopefully the Birds win. That's all I gotta say.
I mean, listen, the only way the Birds aren't going to win is if it's a tie, right?
Oh my God, if that happens. Oh my God, how many ties has there been this year? Just one so far?
I feel like there's at least
like
one, maybe two.
It's weird, but anyways, guys, thank you for being here, and yeah, I'll catch you all tomorrow for the Phillies game. And for the preseason basketball. So I'll catch you all tomorrow. Have a good night, guys. Peace.